Good morning, everybody. This is my awake voice. It's Saturday. It's 5:20 in the morning, and I'm awake. Now, this isn't all that unusual, I suppose, because my work schedule usually has me up at 4 in the morning. But on a Saturday, I usually think, and I think subconsciously, I think to myself, I think, I'm going to sleep in. Oh, but no, no sleeping in today. Because my neighbors upstairs decided to hold a bowling tournament or something at about 4:30 in the morning. And so, here I am, rock me like a hurricane. My mind would not shut off, being startled awake as I was. And I was like, I got to do something. I look at the clock. I'm like, well, I got 4.5 hours till I'm going to hang out with Sister Scribe, something like that. So, what am I going to do in the meantime? Work? Hell no. Something productive? This is the weekend. Am I going to wallow in current news events or something more? Nah. So how about jump onto a stream and say hello to all of you beautiful people on a Saturday morning? Not saying this is going to become a regular thing because, man, I guess it all depends on the neighbors. But before I get into the random video from my archive I decided to pull out because why not? Who's joining me on this beautiful Saturday morning? Jaeger Pony, good morning. Miranda Stone. Actually, you know what? I'll showcase everyone for this special event. Jaeger Pony, good morning. Miranda Stone, a heart to you too. Mike Savage, Blarg. Robert Gruber, hi. Johnny Hellcat, early to rise. Kiro Soldier, geez, Scribe, LOL. I know, right? Jam, very welcome surprise. Well, I'm happy to oblige. Save for the whole waking up thing. Keldrig, guten Morgen. Ja, ich habe Kokain geschniffen, bitte. Shady Grin, I'ma put you to fall asleep too. I've been up all night, no offense. Okay, well, if I help you sleep, then I'll sort of feel better for having been woken up, I suppose. Jacob J, you sounded like Whitey from 8 Crazy Nights. I haven't seen 8 Crazy Nights. Or if I did, it was so long ago I've forgotten. So I'll take your word for it. Attack Alpaca, good morning. Zan Wild, I've been up for 3 hours. Nice to have company. I'm sorry that you've been up for 3 hours, unless that's part of your regular routine. And you wanted to be up for 3 hours. Anyway, good morning. Duck Dog, you've got some great neighbors. Have you thought about getting a train horn? Yeah, vengeance is mine, so saith the train horn. Well, either way, here we are. So let's find out. What are we talking about today? What are you looking at? Well, here's what happened. It's a grand story, an epic tale, I got to tell you. So when my computer died or froze up or whatever the hell happened a week or two ago, I had to scramble as much as I could to recover, back up, and restore a lot of the material and things that I'd collected for the sake of doing my shows and things over the years. And one of the things I had to restore was my file full of captured videos. And the problem was, in order to make sure I didn't lose them again or nothing was corrupted or whatever, I moved them all over onto the drive of my newer computer from the old computer. But in doing so, it reset all of the dates. You know, like if you sort the files on your folder by like when did you upload something or when was something placed into the folder, it'll give you a chronological order of, you know, how old a video is or how old a file is compared to the others. Well, when I transfer them all over, all the dates got normalized to the same day, the day I uploaded them to the new drive. And so now I can't sort by things like, oh, when did I get this? How old is this? Is this something recent? Is this something dated? I don't know anymore. It's just a bunch of stuff. And so I was looking at this bunch of stuff a few minutes ago, and I found a title that I didn't remember ever seeing before. But obviously I saw it at one point, and I captured it. And so I'm going to read you the title now. It might explain to you why it caught my attention. If I have it in front of me here, which of course I don't. There we go. How about that? I Will Survive. Black college womixin and femme coping strategies as practice of survival. Yeah, let me actually. I'm going to add that as a add that as a banner on here, a little running banner, just so I can show you all what exactly the title is. Yeah, let's do this and this and this. There you go. That is the title of the video. That is what caught my eye. And I figured maybe it'd catch your eye too, to a certain extent. So I'll leave that up there for a few seconds, just so we can all absorb the concepts and vocabulary employed in this title. I Will Survive, Black College Womixin and Femme Coping Strategies as Practice of Survival. It sounds like a movie title that was translated from English into Japanese and then into Chinese and then back into English again. But there you go. So that being the case, it's a 9 minute 47 second, 47-second video from the University of Kentucky. Now, how old is this? 2021. So not exactly ancient history, but it's not exactly fresh off the what am I looking for? The oven? I don't know. My brain's still waking up. It's 5:27 in the morning. So, but before I begin, a couple more hellos. Johnny Bonsaco, damn, I see I'm not the only one that got up too early this morning. Morning, Scribe. I got up too early, not by choice, but there you go. And the original Shroom, good morning, all. Good morning, Shroom. And also, once it pops up here, there it is. Ercole Di Stefano, creative thumbnail. Yes, I keep that handy in case I'm either, tight for time or too lazy to come up with a thumbnail on my own. Non-Vitae Rex, good morning. Spudgun. Hi, Scribe. Good morning, Spudgun. All right, so I have no idea what we're getting into, save for the title. Again, just as a reminder, I Will Survive, Black College Womixin and Femme Coping Strategies as Practice of Survival. So if you needed something to fall asleep by, this might be it. Okay, let's go.
My name is Leanna T. Looney.
Hi, Leanna. I'm Scribe. Also, good morning, Cynic.
And I am a Lyman T. Johnson postdoctoral fellow with the Department of Educational Policy Studies and Evaluation.
Educational Policy Studies, okay. So, since this is now 2 some odd years old, she's working towards helping things in education. I don't know.
My research talk today is entitled, I Will Survive, Black College Women in Femme Coping Strategies as a Practice for Survival at Predominantly White Institutions.
Oh, well, that last part wasn't part of the title I saw. At predominantly white institutions. Oh, okay. Well, wait, well, I'm just going to leave the title up, just so I don't forget. Okay, so that's the title. Femme Coping Strategies. If you take out the A in woman and replace it with an X, why would you then pronounce it as woman? Unless that's, I don't know. Anyway.
I hate to admit it, but I take grave concern for our predominantly white colleges and universities.
You hate to admit it? But you have concern for predominantly white colleges and universities. Okay, why?
We have been facing something that we don't quite recognize, and it will eventually consume the academy if we don't stop it.
Oh, okay. There's an oncoming crisis, everybody. Now, remember, this is 2021. So I can't even imagine what might be fueling the fear of this crisis, but let's find out.
I'm not referring to financial crisis.
Okay, I'm just guessing. Is the name George Floyd going to come up by any chance? You're not referring to financial crisis. Okay. And given the time frame, are you referring to the global health emergency, which is sketchy if I say it out loud on YouTube? Sorry.
Financial crisis amidst an economic recession and global pandemic. Declining enrollment rates, or professors who still don't know how to teach online courses.
Oh, online courses. Online courses. Okay, so what is the problem?
This something has been with us since the first day Euro-Americans crashed the shores to colonize this land.
The first day's Euro-Americans, okay, crashed these shores to colonize these lands. You know, you're living here too. You could, you know, not, if that's a big problem for you.
Captured Black bodies for unpaid labor to create the most ferocious capitalistic society in human history.
Oh, what were the color of the bodies that originally captured the bodies to then... Oh, and also, you know, as we all know, no one who lived on this continent before the Euro-Americans showed up ever captured anybody and forced them to do anything. Because, you know, yeah.
And created institutions that reproduce and uphold oppression. I'm referring to racism and anti-Blackness in particular.
Racism and anti-Blackness in particular. Okay. So the problem on predominantly white colleges and universities is racism, particularly anti-Black racism. Okay.
You may have heard the saying, racism is as American as apple pie. And
I have heard that saying. I've heard it mostly from race-baiting activists. But go on.
Baseball. Meaning that at the foundation of our oldest, most treasured and esteemed institutions lies a substructure of racism. Unfortunately, our colleges and universities make up some of these institutions.
Oh, okay. Well, unbeknownst to our speaker, about 2 years on from this talk, some of that racism would be eliminated with the, let's say, destruction of affirmative action. You know, race-based assessment of people's ability to be admitted into colleges. So I guess maybe that might be a plus in her world. I don't know.
I would argue that racism is as American as predominantly white colleges and universities.
Well, I mean, apple pie kind of transcends that. So if you're like, or baseball, so I don't think, is that really a refinement of the argument?
Once we realize this, we should look to those who remain the most marginalized on our campuses to learn how to survive racism in higher ed. Okay. After all, keeping racism in our campus communities is not sustainable.
Keeping race. Okay, well, you know, it's one of those things where you're not going to hear me say racism doesn't exist anymore or something like that, because obviously it does, and it always will. Like murder, there are things that are the worst parts of human behavior that aren't there because humans aren't flawed, because they are. But okay, tell me how this photograph, or I don't know, artist's rendering of the University of Kentucky from what I can only assume is the early 1900s, how the conditions of the world society and the laws of this country from that time are still applicable today.
So today I am here to talk about 3 lessons or strategies we might learn from my research on the coping techniques that Black college women in FEMS used to survive anti-Black gendered racism.
Black college women and FEMS. Okay. Maybe I'll play dumb for the sake of this, and I'll see if the speaker defines these things. What's the difference between a woman and a femme? But okay, you've already assumed to know the truth of things, and that is racism is in all things, at all times, in all places, in all institutions. It is as American as apple pie, so we don't need to argue that point. It just is. It's a truth. It's a fact. It is a universal constant. Okay, so what are your 3 strategies for surviving this obvious and total inalienable truth of colleges and universities in 2021 as of the time of this presentation?
If you remember nothing else,
and I don't
remember this.
Okay.
We will survive racism at predominantly white higher ed institutions but only if we act.
Okay. You want to give me an example of modern day, current racism in action, like, say, at the University of Kentucky?
We must reformulate our definitions of racism.
Yes. How can we make sure that we will forever be victims? By redefining the terms of the oppressive action. Yes, if we broaden the definition of racism, then we can never not be oppressed and victimized. Oh boy. Okay. So lesson number 1, reformulate our definitions of racism. So alter common reality of terms and definitions for our benefit. Okay. Well, that's one way to do it. I mean, I appreciate her honesty in a way. You know, she's telling us up front that she's going to be changing the rules of the game. But all right. Push play. Thank you.
Reformulate our definitions of racism. Resist
the new definitions of racism that you've created for yourself. I mean, it's sort of like trying to it's like setting up the saltine stand on corner number 1, and then by the time somebody walks down the street, there's the lemonade stand. You've created a problem that you will solve for yourself. Yeah, okay.
And rebuild our communities.
Because they're destroyed?
The first lesson is to reformulate our definitions of racism.
Yes.
When I interacted with students and asked what coping meant to them, there were all sorts of undertones insinuating that individuals' coping techniques cannot solve anti-Black gendered racism itself.
Anti-Black gendered racism. Okay, talking about reformulating definitions. So, Black women and femme. Okay. It might be too early in the morning for me. Let's try that one again. Say that again. Sorry.
That individuals' coping techniques cannot solve anti-Black gendered racism itself. And the key to understanding this is recognizing that dominant culture forces a shallow conceptualization of racism onto us.
Oh, a shallow conceptualization of racism. Okay, so I guess the shallow conceptualization is if I elevate and or denigrate someone on the basis of their skin color, that's too shallow a definition, a working definition of racism. Okay, so you want to deepen the definition of racism, broaden the definition of racism? Is it going to be power plus privilege or something to that effect?
It doesn't operate how we might think it does.
Oh.
Racism goes beyond racial epithets and legalized racial segregation.
Oh. Well, I mean, actually, all of that is an outgrowth of the inherent assessment of people on the basis of their skin color. But, okay. Tell me more. Keldrig, thank you so much. This just sounds like misogynoir with extra words. Real words, admittedly, but extra. Misogynoir. I encountered that within the first few months of my channel being alive. I found a video talking about, I'd never heard that phrase before. I remember the title of the video. I named it 50 Shades of Burnt Sienna. And you can find it on my channel. And it's the audio quality is probably terrible and the editing is rudimentary, but it's there. This is 2016, 2017 when I found that. And that video, I got an education. But yes, it does sound like that, doesn't it? But we haven't gotten to the point of talking about internalized community colorism, racism yet, if we get there at all. But anyway, our definition is too shallow. We have to do what now?
And legalize racial segregation.
Right.
The truth of the matter is that racism is entangled with other tools of white, male, heteronormative, and capitalist institutions.
Oh, white, male, heteronormative, and capitalist institutions. Oh, okay. Well, if we have to oppose all those things, what do you oppose capitalism with? Oh boy, I don't know if my memory or my imagination is so flexible this morning. I don't know. Okay. Um, so what is the new definition of racism then?
Findings from my study reveal that racism at predominantly white institutions intersects with misogyny, class, and homophobia, just to name a few.
Just to name a few. Oh, well, with intersectional theory, everything's game. You can find 6 degrees of intersection bacon everywhere if you work hard enough. Just to name a few. Okay. So everything is sexist, everything's racist, everything's homophobic, and you have to find it and seek it out. Okay.
And we might have heard of this before.
Mm-hmm.
But what we might not know is the insidious nature of racism and anti-Blackness particularly.
Well, how about the insidious nature of racism when you are divvying people up on the basis of their skin color and furthering the idea that we need to evaluate people differently on the basis of race? Predominantly white colleges, black Wimixon, etc., etc. I don't know.
My study also uncovered the minutia of racism, including students' everyday interactions with colorism, featureism, and texturism.
Featureism, texturism. I'll tell you what, I don't know that I'd ever heard texturism before. Texturism? Is that like, I don't know, acne scars or hair quality or something? Texturism. Okay.
Infighting between different groups of non-white students.
Infighting between different groups of non-white students. Are you talking about, would the basis of any of those infightings be race by any chance?
Tension between students of the same race but different ethnicities, gender identities, and sexual orientations.
So basically, people have tensions between people, regardless of what demographic they fall in. Okay.
And turmoil between non-white administrators and students.
Turmoil between non-white administrators and students. So students of any particular color. Okay. And what did this survey tell you?
I want to emphasize that these tensions exist within campus, socio-historical, and political contexts, where all non-white students, faculty, and staff feel the pressures of racism and anti-Blackness on campus, and sometimes remain complicit in white supremacy.
Wait. Okay. So racial tensions only affect non-white students and staff, even though non-white students and staff still participate in white supremacy, even though they're not white. And so they're working towards their own detriment. But obviously those students and staff who are white are obviously part of white supremacy. You're getting a doctorate in educational, what's again? University of Kentucky. Okay. All right. So this all dissolves down to what new definition of racism?
Of course, reformulating definitions of racism also means understanding its reach on our campuses.
No, you see, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a campus or any place else. Either racism means a thing everywhere or it doesn't mean anything. You don't have campus racism. It just doesn't make any sense. So what is your new definition of racism? I would love to evaluate that.
It happens in students' living quarters, social events and parties, yes, including off campus.
Yeah, we know. Racism is everywhere, at all times, in all things, at every moment, in the air we breathe, the water that we drink, the dirt that we put our toes in. Yes, it's everywhere. We know. Okay, we get it. What is your new definition of racism?
Dining halls and in our classrooms. I must
lions and tigers and bears. Oh my.
Just note that we all play a role in upholding racist and anti-Black systems. And so no privileged person is free from fixing this.
We all do this and none of us are free from fixing this. What is your new definition of racism?
We, yes, even us postdocs and graduate students,
Oh,
must understand how intersectional racism operates in the 21st century to best prepare for its next form and survive white supremacy at predominantly white institutions like our own beloved UK and academia overall.
intersectional racism. Oh, that feels a bit redundant. Because where did intersectionality come from in the first place? Kimberly Crenshaw, when she was, and this is just the apocryphal story that I know, when she was formulating a legal argument for a client to try to show that a business had been racist against her client and sexist, in order to prove a discrimination lawsuit. And the company said, well, look at our workforce. We have lots of women and we have a mix of races. There's no evidence that our company is either racist or sexist when it comes to our hiring or employment practices. And she's like, no, you see, you might not be racist against black people and you might not be sexist against women, but if you'll notice, you have very few black women in this department or something else. And so it's the intersection of these two things that makes you guys discriminatory. That was the theory. And so when you say intersectional racism, I don't know. Maybe I just feel like it's a bit of a redundancy. But
the second lesson.
No. Whoa. No, we don't get to the second lesson until you've proven out the first one. What is your new definition of racism? What is the definition? Just saying it's everywhere at all times and all things doesn't tell me what the definition is. Unless we're going to get to that, you've got 5 minutes. Okay, resist what?
And we can learn from my research is that there is power in resistance.
What?
We must actively resist racism and anti-Blackness.
Wait. Racism and anti-Blackness. Okay, how are these two things different? How is racism and anti-Blackness different? I mean, it sounds like one and the same. Unless you're trying to carve out a very specific type of oppression and victimhood for a specific racial demographic, which is what it sounds like you're doing. But okay, resist. How do you propose to resist this indomitable, unstoppable, everywhere, endemic thing?
Because my study explored the everyday coping mechanism of Black women and FEM college students, I had the opportunity to bear witness to their disengagement, detachment, and avoidant coping strategies.
So they just became apathetic. And again, I know I'm Saturday morning braining it here. What is the difference between a Womixen and a femme?
In my work, this looked like students distancing themselves from instances of anti-Black gendered racism.
Instances of anti-Black gendered racism, like what? Do you have an example? I mean, I'll take any example at this point.
And the after effects like exhaustion, self-doubt, altered self-image, anger, embarrassment, alienation, distrust in the university, and anxiety and depression.
That all sounds like a bunch of personal problems. See, here's the thing. And I know it's not always easy. If someone is being mean to you, okay, you have two choices. Either you can let that destroy your very sense of self, or you can turn it around and say, well, that reflects on them more so than it does me. Now, all depends on the circumstances and the context. What you perceive as someone being mean to you could be someone being honest to you, and it's all that kind of thing. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, someone is being unfairly mean to you and attacking you, belittling you, demeaning you on the basis of your skin color and or your gender, just for the sake of argument. Let's say it's absolutely true. There is no argument. There's no gray area in there. Okay. What is your choice in the matter? You can either let it affect you or not. You can either let it destroy you or not. You can internalize it, or you can say that person's just a meanie head and I'm going to move on with my life. So even if, for the sake of our speaker's presentation here, someone is experiencing this, their depression, their anxiety, their self-doubt, the operative word in self-esteem is self. So, okay, but how do you resist this? How do you resist this overwhelming and juggernaut-like force of nature?
On the other end, findings show us that students felt that their disengagement, detachment, and avoiding coping proved to be unsustainable.
Ah.
The lesson here is that we must resist and actively face the reality of racism on our college and university campuses.
Such as what? You talk to a bunch of people. You must have at least one example you can give of what happened and how somebody, quote unquote, resisted.
Interestingly, many of the students I spoke with juxtapose disengagement, detachment, and avoidant coping strategies with engagement and problem-solving coping techniques, such as resistance.
Define resistance.
These strategies included direct confrontation with racist community members.
Direct confrontation with racist community members. Okay, how did that go?
Policies and practices on campus.
Direct confrontation with policies and practice. Okay, what policies and practices needed to be confronted?
Self-education.
Self-education on what? You're getting a doctorate, right? You did a whole bunch of studies on this, correct? You did a whole bunch of work and collected a bunch of data on this. Can you give us some specifics? One active example of any of this? Please, something?
Self-education and even humor.
Even humor? Wow.
The positive impacts of actively resisting anti-Black gendered racism for the students included feeling empowered, having a voice, a sense of purpose, and newfound self-care techniques.
Well, if I decide to imagine that windmill over there is a giant, and I chase after it with my ramshackle, what was I going to say? Lance? That's what I wanted, lance. And I pierce the giant's arm with my lance. I've defeated the giant. I feel empowered. I feel justified. I feel righteous. I have created a monster that I can slay and feel good about myself. Wow. I'm a victim and I'm resisting the victimhood that I am self-imposing. Look at me, how brave, how stunning.
And so, in other words, when it came to their survival of racism, students implemented resistant coping that allowed them to take anti-Black gendered racism and its after effects head on.
Wow. Are you going to give us any examples of this racism on campus? And any examples where the person or persons who were the target of these things had no choice in the matter but to accept what they were being told, and that the people doing it were also somehow left with no consequences? Any evidence at all? Or is everything anecdotal? Did someone take their microaggression, tell you that story, and you decided to mark it down as a legitimate instance of racism against that person? I mean, I guess I'd really love to see her actual doctoral thesis on this and see what evidence and what anecdotes and what information she's working off of.
Ultimately leading to more sustainable experiences with survival. And so, although facing race—
Oh, wait. Their life was in danger with this? Their actual existence was at stake in this situation? I mean, if you say so.
Survival. And so, although facing racism and anti-Blackness is an arduous task, we must take it head on to survive.
Survive.
I say this to you as people in the academy who are early enough in our careers and who have the energy and the spark to create the change we want to see.
Change what? What needs to be changed? What is your definition of racism? What problem? If you identified through your studies policies and or practices at the University of Kentucky, just as an example, that are inherently racist and or sexist and or whatever, why don't you name them? Because that is something that is identifiable and something that conceivably could be changed, altered, or otherwise to improve if you actually have any evidence of such a policy and practice or procedure being inherently racist. So you're at the podium at the University of Kentucky. You did part or all of your study at the University of Kentucky. Name and shame the racist and sexist policies and practices at the university. Go ahead.
The final lesson is to rebuild our communities. And this relates to findings of students' collective and communal coping strategies.
Collective and communal coping strategies for things that you will not name or specify in a definition of racism you will not provide. Okay?
All of us together make up one large campus community.
Do we? I thought we were all divided up by race and gender.
But what about the microcosms or the smaller communities on campuses?
So we're not one big community. We are a collection of communities. I couldn't have seen that coming.
And how might our smaller, more specific communities strengthen the university's survival against racism and anti-Blackness?
Racism and anti... Why... I know the answer to the question I'm about to ask. Why continue to draw a line of demarcation between racism and anti-Blackness? They're the same... It's the same concept. But you need a special microcosm racism just for you?
When I talk about community, I'm talking about those that particularly deal with race on campus.
When I'm talking about community, I'm talking about those that deal with race on campus. Okay, so if there's a community of chess players on campus, they don't count? They're not an actual community? If there's a community of, I don't know, hacky sack enthusiasts, they don't count? The only communities that count on campus are those focused on race? Boy, what fun group meetings those must be.
Through the lens of collective and communal coping strategies, students in my study not only joined communities that empowered them as racially gendered, marginalized people, but they were also part of communities that allowed them to question the presence of white supremacy on campus.
They don't want to join a club where they, like, I don't know, do role-playing games or D&D on the weekends? They want to join communities that empower them on the basis of their race. You want to think about that mentality for a second? Empowerment via skin color. Think about that. Think about another phrase that you used a little bit earlier in your presentation. Something that even the faculty and students of color on the campus were participating in, unbeknownst to them. You want to think about that for a second? You want to think about homogenizing and reducing everybody down simply to the basis of their race, and then making their race something from which to derive pride and power? Any thoughts on that? Okay.
And in their lives as college students.
Oh, yeah.
For many, this meant joining friendships, study groups, ethnic studies courses, and grassroots organizations with folks who had also committed to racial justice.
Justice predicated on skin color. Yeah, if you put any word in front of justice, any modifier, more likely than not, it has now destroyed the idea of actual justice.
Most notable was that students created communities in which they thrived amongst people of the same race and ethnicity. And so I encourage us in academia to push for spaces that are exclusively Black.
Okay, doctoral student, University of Kentucky, pushing for racial segregation on campus. Yay! Oh man, yeah, if you want to fight racism, if you want to fight anti-Blackness, here's what you do. You collect all of those people, and you put them in one group all together and make sure nobody else can get in that could poison the waters. Let's go back and let's hear that again. Just for those in the cheap seats. Let's back up just a smidge. Let's hear that again, shall we? Oh, push the play button.
Communities in which they thrived amongst people of the same race and ethnicity. And so I encourage us in academia to push for spaces that are exclusively Black and exclusive to other minoritized identities.
Racial affinity groups on campus. Self-imposed racial segregation on campus. I want a place where I can only see the kinds of people I like to see. Like shall gather with like, and ne'er the twain shall meet. It was a long and convoluted road to this point. So I wonder what again is the new definition of racism? On campus. All right.
This also means pushing for exclusive spaces that provide strong example of white allyship for white campus community members.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. We can't forget the allyship, the subordinates, or the deferentials. All right. So you want a big sign on a room somewhere, right, that says Blacks only. Let's think about that for a second, everybody. Shall we think about the historical connotations of having a space or facilities or resources that are carved out specifically and only for people with a certain skin color? Can we imagine sort of a classic black eye, no pun intended, on American society that involved drinking fountains? Can we think about that for a second? Can we think about that sort of classic black and white, no pun intended, but I'll take it, picture of drinking fountains and signs above said drinking fountains? And tell me, fundamentally, what is different from that photograph than what she is proposing here? The answer is nothing. Absolutely nothing. No red snapper weaver. Nothing.
Intentional community building with smaller groups will allow us to
intentional community building. Okay, so structured segregation. Intentional community building. I love the softening of the language here. I love it. That's great. That's great. Okay. Why is it now? I should be able to just hit the space bar and start the video again, but it doesn't do that. What the heck?
That provides strong examples of white allyship for white campus community members.
Mm-hmm.
Intentional community building with smaller groups will allow us to muster the strength to survive racism for the time being and to build a strong foundation for the larger campus community overall.
All right. So in order to resist and survive racism, we have to portion ourselves off from one another in campus communities where spaces are explicitly set aside for people based on their skin color. And white students specifically are categorized as allies because if you're not in the white ally group, then you're obviously an enemy because you're white, I guess. Does anybody who decides not to allyship space, are they then marked for shunning or something? I don't know.
And so in conclusion, Black women in FEM college students show us the everyday coping mechanisms they use to survive racism at predominantly white institutions.
No, they don't. Or at least through this presentation, you didn't tell us how they did. You didn't give us any examples. You didn't actually define your terms. And ultimately, you ended up advocating for something that takes us backwards in time, not forwards, doesn't solve the problem, just entrenches it. But okay, University of Kentucky, doctoral program.
Our job is to
Uh-huh.
listen carefully and follow their lead.
I've been listening carefully. I'm not going to follow your lead.
And so I want to leave you with you all a few action items, of course.
Okay.
There's work to do.
Of course, there's always work to do. The work never ends. The work, the work, the work, the work.
And so
A needle pulling thread.
the first is to leave here and think about the true nature of racism and anti-Blackness on our own campus here at UK.
Okay, sorry. I accidentally, my thumb twitched. Let me back up a smidge here.
And think about the true nature of racism and anti-Blackness on our own campus here at UK.
Okay. Tell me. Tell me about the nature of racism and anti-Blackness, as though those two things are effectively different, on the campus at UK. I mean, you did the study. You must have an example.
What does it look like on the ground and systemically, and how do those work together?
I don't know. Why aren't you telling us? You did the study. So give us an example that everybody in the room can go forward to change.
How does it impact the well-being of non-white students, staff, and faculty? And how might we work to survive it at predominantly white colleges and universities?
I don't know. Why don't you tell us?
My second action item for you today is...
So wait, your first action item is for me to recreate all the work you purportedly have already done in your doctoral paper project, whatever the heck it is. So instead of you going out there and doing the work to inform the rest of us, now we have to go educate ourselves. Oh, okay. Next
is to question and call out white supremacy on our campus.
Oh, how about calling out black supremacy? How about calling out segregation or segregationists like yourself? Can we call out that, or is that racist?
This might look like speaking out against anti-Black curriculum,
What is an anti-Black? Okay, good gravy. All right. What is anti-Black curriculum on the campus of the University of Kentucky? What is anti-Black curriculum? I'm open to the idea that it exists. University of Kentucky. Okay, University of Kentucky is ridiculously racist. Okay, how? What curriculum on the University of Kentucky is anti-Black? Because that would be a scandal to the high heavens in this country. What is it? Tell me. Oh, tell me true.
Is to question and call out white supremacy on our campus. This might look like speaking out against anti-Black curriculum, policy, or campus culture.
Such as?
And lastly, I encourage you to get involved with affinity groups.
Well, at least she used the official name. Get involved with affinity groups. Well, you know, there's only one or two that I'm allowed to get involved with. Isn't that right?
That discuss race, racism, and anti-Blackness.
Oh, race, racism, and anti-Blackness. Again, you've got to have a specialized victimhood narrative, okay?
These groups can be with people of the same or different racial and ethnic identities.
What? No. You said there had to be spaces specifically for Black students. Oh, so now we're going to have what? Diverse affinity groups? That kind of contradicts the whole point of it, doesn't it? Or am I missing something?
Discuss race, racism, and anti-Blackness. These groups can be with people of the same or different racial and ethnic identities as you, as long as they center anti-racist ideologies and practices.
Oh, now we're into anti-racism. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that was inevitable. as long as they center anti-racist practices and values. All right. If they don't center that, then I can't join an affinity group for chess players. I can't join an affinity group for D&D enthusiasts or, trumpet players or something. No, it has to be race all the time, centered anti-racist philosophies, which are obviously totally not racist in and of themselves. Also, there need to be spaces specifically for people of particular colors on campus.
And if you remember nothing else,
and I won't,
remember this.
Okay.
We will survive racism at predominantly white institutions.
Will white people survive your racism at predominantly white institutions?
But only if we act.
Uh-huh.
We must reformulate our definitions of racism.
By not actually defining racism.
Resist.
By not telling us what... It sounded more like by resisting, it was just sort of like, don't let it get you down. Right? Somebody said something mean to you, or something you interpreted as mean, you decided to internalize. And to resist means just sticks and stones, as far as I can tell.
And rebuild our communities.
By imposing segregation on our communities. Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, there you go. That was the entirety of it. I didn't do any clipping or editing on that. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. Do we feel educated yet? Do we feel educated? Let's see. I've been going on for about an hour. Let's see. Let's take a moment for what you guys have to say. Let me scroll up here a little bit. Oh, everybody's talking about so many things in here. Q continuum. Calling out white supremacy per the presenter's definition would be resistance of idiocy and infantilization. Again, can I believe that in the University of Kentucky that some teacher, some person, some policy is racist? Sure. I can believe that that is a possibility. Problem is, you need to prove it. And she didn't. She had the stage. She had the podium. Why not? And then, of course, the rest of us have to go educate ourselves. Jacob J., when they say anti-racist, they essentially mean anti-white. We all know it. Racism for them is literally anything relating to white people, and I could keep going, but we all get what's going on here. Anti-racist is for the most part, anti-anything that isn't black. If you're not black, then you're on the opposite side of the equation, almost exclusively. And you just have to either listen to and or read Ibram X. Kendi's work or speeches on the subject. But regardless, the whole anti-racist thing is just nonsense to begin with, because it assumes that everything, everywhere, at all times is racist. Again, it's a universal constant. It's always been there. It can never go anywhere. And people cannot be not racist. It assumes that to be ironclad fact. People are incapable of being anything other than racist all the time. And so to be anti-racist is simply an act of confession. It doesn't cleanse you of it. It just means you're always going to be apologizing. That's what anti-racism is. And there's always one particular victim, and everybody else is the villain. Big time. I eagerly await the coming segregation. Oh, it's here. It's here. It's both here, apparently, as her suggestion for the University of Kentucky, a elementary school in Minnesota I did a video on, several independent school educators I did videos on, promoting the idea of affinity groups, also in business, and on and on and on, whether they're ERGs or whatever else. Let's see. Kira Soldier, affinity groups for whites, according to left, is either the KKK or the Proud Boys. Exactly. It's the same thing. If you want to set aside and say only people of this color can go here, and the people that go here are going to commune with one another to empower each other on the basis of their race and ethnicity, it's no different. It's there's I've mentioned this before. There is a symbol in symbolic logic, if you can believe it, a symbol in symbolic logic. It is like an equals sign. I don't know if it has an official name. I honestly don't know. But instead of 2 bars for an equals sign, it has 3 bars. And if you put a value on one side of the 3 bars and a value on the other side, value A and value B, these two things are demonstrably different, right? Yet they are so similar that they are practically identical one to the other. So, for example, if you have a space that is set aside specifically for white people, where white people can commune and feel all good about themselves for being white, that is one thing. And then if you have another space set aside specifically for black people, where black people can commune and feel all good about themselves simply on the basis of being black, that is demonstrably a different thing, and yet they both operate on the exact same mechanism and are effectively the same thing leading towards the same end. The idea that the races must be separated and that there is pride and or power to be found communing on the basis of something that is a non-determinative factor of someone's character and worth in the world, unless you decide to assign a value to that element. And when you do that, I hate to tell you this, you just might be racist. Anyway, do I want to do something else? Do I want to look at something else? I've got so many videos here, and I don't know how old they are. Oh, I got plus TEDx's. Oh man, I've got so many TEDx's. So many TEDx's I'd never looked at. Boy, oh boy. What a body cam video. Oh, I also have police videos. Probably can't show those without risking something. I don't know. Should I do a TEDx? Should I find like a really short TEDx that I wouldn't do for a full show otherwise? Let's see. I'm gonna have to list them by details for timestamp on here. Okay. Let's see. What do we have for TEDx's that are relatively short? You know, we're talking like 6 or 7 minutes or something. Here, just sort out the TEDx's from everything else. And then view them by details. Yes, thank you. Okay. So let's see. What do we have? What is short? TEDx. Okay, we got 10 minutes. We got 9 minutes. 8 minutes. Can I sort by length as well? Oh, I can sort by length. Oh, that's what she said. All right, let's see. What are the top under 10-minute ones here? All right. Breaking the bias in STEM. My guilty pleasure engaging with hip hop as a feminist. What? Okay. My only question for that one is I got to at least, I don't know what's on this thing. If she starts doing music or playing music, I might be an off because I can't play music on here. What, oh no, that's a I can't. I know that's a TEDx youth one. I'm not gonna do. Not gonna do teenagers. Not gonna do non-professionals or no. I stopped doing TEDx youth things a long time ago. Unless it's a TEDx youth presentation where you've got like a teacher giving the presentation, then I don't have so much a problem with it. But when it comes to students, yeah, they're just probably repeating something they were told. Let's see. Man, you already eat insects. Why not do it voluntarily? Because insects are gross. That's the long and the short of it. Oh man, the intersection of COVID, bullets, homelessness, and opiates. Oh man, dare I? Oh, I said the secret word on air. Oh no. Oh come on, there's got to be something here. No. What's this? 8 minutes, 51 seconds. The audacity of privilege. And the speaker's name is Latanya White. Does she have white privilege? All right, tell you what, we're going to do that one. We're going to do that one just for the heck of it. Why not? Let's see. Got to get the properties thing here. See if I can make this work. 1 second, everybody. Let me see if I can make this operate without too much. Now, the only problem is I don't know what the audio quality of this thing is. So if it's really lousy, I might have to skip it. Okay, let's find out just for the heck of it. And no bingo card. That take too much setup. Mental bingo card. It's perfectly fine. Inspiration and innovation. The audacity of privilege.
Good morning, everyone. So I first like to say.
Oh, that's really quiet. Can you guys even hear that? That's really quiet. I might have picked that. Yeah, this is one of those things where I should have like boosted the audio. I don't know if that's. I can't make it any louder. That's as loud as it gets, I think. Yeah, I think that's too quiet. Can you guys hear that? Is that a yes? You can hear it, or yes, it's too quiet. Mike R says yes. Barely. Yeah, I don't know if that one's going to work. Now, I didn't promise this would be a well-structured stream, unlike many others. This is just a I'm awake in the morning thing. Ooh, how about this? Radical feminist empathy. Okay, let's try that. Let's hope the sound is better on this one. Oh, now I got to change the URL thing again. Sorry, guys. 1 second. My browser likes to make everything very complicated, apparently, because of spaces. It's always the spaces. You put spaces in between stuff. The browser likes to fill it in with a bunch of percentage signs and things, and it makes it all messy, and I can't easily edit it. Okay, let's try this one. Is the sound editor Virginia Tech again? Did I get all these from the same event or something? I don't know. Okay, the German Club alumni.
Our stories, and especially those of others close to us, can inform, impinge on, and impact choices we make on our own trajectories in life.
Wow, that was a lot of words. You guys hear that okay? Let me know. Again, the title is, let me just take it here and put it up on the screen for everybody's edification. Banners. No, I want to edit this. Why can't I edit this? Okay, I have to do this. Okay. I'm learning as I go. There we go. Okay, so this is called Radical Feminist Empathy. And you guys hear that all right? Sounds good? All right, I'm going to start over just because I didn't quite catch her initial statement. Go.
Our stories, and especially those of others close to us, can inform, impinge on, and impact choices we make on our own trajectories in life.
Yes, we can take lessons from the stories of others, and it might change our minds or our perspective or our actions for the future. Okay.
Our reflections on our stories helps us to bridge divides, speak to difference, and to inspire others.
They can, sure. Okay.
Our stories, in other words, also speak to the humanity we share.
Well, we really can't avoid the humanity we share, because even if I'm in the same room with, say, Charles Manson, we're still both human. So, there's more considerations, but yeah, okay.
Stories of our own experiences can move us to empathy and also to act. In sharing my own story and how I have reflected on that story, I believe that I bring today a radical feminist empathy.
A radical feminist empathy. All right. Well, I don't know what that means, so I am all ears.
Defined as empathy I can put to work.
Wait. Radical feminist empathy is empathy you can put to work. What does that have to do with feminism? And how is that radical? As in beyond the pale?
From a feminist perspective, to both my research interests and to students I teach.
Okay. That was a modifier. Let's take that again in its fullness, just so I don't completely misunderstand here. Push play.
And also to act. In sharing my own story and how I have reflected on that story, I believe that I bring today a radical feminist empathy. Defined as empathy I can put to work. From a feminist perspective, to both my research interests and to students I teach.
Okay, empathy you put to work from a feminist perspective. So radical feminist empathy is empathy that is feminist. Okay, I don't know if you know the rules about defining terms, that you can't just repeat the term in its own definition. That doesn't tell us anything, but okay.
My mother's story, her early death at 45, and my own story. And subsequent life choices are intertwined.
Yes, because it's your life and your experiences. They're always going to be intertwined. Not even intertwined. It just is, unless we're talking about multiple timelines or something.
She had been a doctor in British India.
Okay.
Graduating from medical school in the eastern Indian city of Kolkata with high honors in 1941.
You know, the only time I ever hear about Kolkata now is when I'm watching videos with those telephone scam hunter guys, you know, like Scammers Payback or DVR or Jim Browning, sorry. Yeah, they're always talking about how they track down the scammers to Kolkata or areas they're in. Yeah.
Decades after her demise, I questioned what else, besides a stroke, could explain her early death.
What else besides a stroke could explain her early death? Dietary choices, lifestyle, any kind of vices, drinking, smoking, or medications. I don't know. What else?
That question arose from an early memory of her pale and despairing face shortly before she died.
Okay.
This image remained seared into my memory.
Sure.
Even then, young as I was, I felt that she was a woman broken in spirit and then in body.
Because of her degrading health, or?
Now, teaching in the Women's and Gender Studies program at Virginia Tech, this became for me a feminist question.
This became to you a feminist question. What did?
One informed by what I knew of the constraints women face globally to getting an education at all.
Okay, well, if you want to talk about the hardships of women globally in getting an education or getting fair treatment under the law or in society, yeah, there are plenty of places that are still more or less in the dark ages on those subjects. So sure. So wait, so your mother, who became a doctor when she hurt. Wait. So when you saw her pale, worn face shortly before she passed away from a stroke, you associate that with the 45 years previous hardships of her educational endeavors? What?
Leave alone educational achievement.
Yeah.
What was my mother's story?
I don't know.
I knew she was a doctor, but nothing more.
Okay.
I know today that too many women and their lives go unheard, unvoiced.
Okay.
But much would happen in my life before I would get to tell her story. In college, now in my late teens, my paternal family felt I was at risk of going off the rails without a mother's guidance.
Your paternal family. Okay. Your paternal family? You mean your dad? Or what do you mean?
And I was pressured to marry.
Wait. Wait. Okay. Your paternal family thought you were going to go astray without a mother's guidance, so you were pressured to marry. That makes all sort of sense. Okay, you were pressured to marry. All right. So you didn't. Did you have an arranged marriage, or you were pressured to marry?
This despite the fact that I was an excellent student through high school and in college.
Well, being an excellent student does not necessarily reflect an excellent peace of mind. But okay, a family, boy oh boy, a family encouraged a single person in the family to marry. A tale as old as time. And then?
I completed college, but any further educational dreams were effectively ended when I married.
Why? Why were your further educational dreams ended when you married? Why?
However, 12 years and a daughter later,
Oh, okay. So you got married, you got pregnant, you raised a child, and so you set your educational desires aside. Okay. Were you forced to not continue your education? Or was that a choice that you made? You're not saying you were forced. You're not even talking all that highly, but maybe your husband was a jerk. I don't know. But okay, so you raised a daughter, and this impeded your educational aspirations. So you were pressured into marrying. You weren't forced to marry. So you married of your own volition. You had a child of your own volition, and you did not continue your educational studies of your own volition, unless there's another element to this story we're not hearing. Okay. You're making yourself sound like a victim of something. Until you're going to tell us what you're a victim of, I'm not quite sure where we're going with this.
When I married. However, 12 years and a daughter later, I would leave that first marriage alert to what I had intuited earlier about my mother's death, that a broken spirit can kill as effectively as a stroke.
She didn't die of a broken spirit. She died of a stroke. You left that marriage, so you weren't required to stay in it. You made a choice. All right. So you chose poorly in your partners, and we're not hearing anything else about that, so I'm not quite sure what the circumstances were. Okay. So I don't know where your spirit was broken because you made a series of less than desirable choices for yourself?
Determined to give myself another chance, I arrived at the University of Virginia in the United States for graduate studies.
Okay.
I would remarry, but persist in completing my goals against many odds, including financial hardships, poor health, and eventually a second divorce.
Jeez. Okay. All right. Well, wait. All right. When do we get to this radical feminist empathy? How are we getting there? You want to say your mother died of a broken spirit, except she died of a stroke. Now, don't get me wrong. You can have negative physiological effects befall you as a result of, anxiety, stress, and so on. Stress can bring on ulcers. They can bring on high blood pressure, a whole bunch of other things. So sure, if your mother, for whatever her situation was at the time of her demise, she was in some kind of really stressful state, or she'd been going through a series of trauma or whatever, maybe it contributed to the factors that led up to the stroke. I'm not saying that's impossible, but you're not telling us what the situation is, or we're not getting to it yet. So I'm still not sure what this has to do with a radical feminist empathy. You had 2 failed marriages, 1 kid, and you made a series of choices that you ultimately were not that jazzed with. Okay, and?
Where tradition and culture had defined my place as a woman, I had chosen to define that place for myself.
Okay, on that score, congratulations. You escaped a situation you were not happy with, and a country whose society devalued you. Okay, I'll take that for what it is. And in all sincerity, congratulations to you. Where is this supposed to take us?
My first act of radical feminist empathy was to research my mother's story, then to tell it.
Radical feminist empathy is to research your mother's story and tell it. How is that radical? How is that feminist? What?
In old photographs, archival material, family anecdotes, and historical scholarship on women in medicine in British India, I sought to give context to my mother's life, aspirations, struggles, and achievement.
Great. You worked on creating a biography of your mother. Okay. Well, let me get back a little. Let's see. Radical. Okay, if you're talking about, all right, I'm trying to be empathetic here. You know, empathy that I don't actually possess because I'm a male. So if we're talking about the societal structure and value of women in, say, British India or India in general, maybe not so much these days, I don't know, but I'm sure to a certain extent. And you're trying to showcase in relative terms to Indian society, the radical feminism of your mother achieving the things that she achieved, maybe that makes sense to me a little bit, or I can try because I'm empathizing, even if I'm a man.
I would publish this work in a reputed American journal in 2016.
Okay.
The cover of the issue features my mother's 1941 medical school graduation photograph.
Uh-huh.
She sits in graduation robes, the sole woman with 13 men.
Okay. Again, for your mother's achievement, given the society she grew up in and the circumstances she found herself in, that is notable. I'm not going to deny it. Okay.
Her story is now read around the world.
Uh-huh.
I gave her voice.
All right. Well, good for you. Uh-huh. And
visibility.
Sure.
My mother's story and my own struggles would inspire my subsequent research.
Your own struggles with 2 failed marriages and a choice not to continue your education? I mean, I didn't hear her say, my family forbid me from continuing my education, or this marriage was arranged, or my husband did not allow me to attend college. I mean, maybe those things are true. I don't know. But I haven't heard anything other than her own personal choices that led up to her dissatisfaction.
My parents, despite their financial constraints, had afforded me an excellent education in India,
okay,
especially through high school.
All right.
I now asked, critically aware of my own educational privilege,
Mm-hmm.
what if other women and girls, even in the 21st century, who have to struggle for lack of money as well as against traditional constraints to get an education? One research initiative based on ethnographic inquiry among poor Muslim women in Kolkata, India, found economic, religious, and cultural obstacles to even literacy, despite India's constitutional requirements and laws that all children be educated through age 14.
Wow. You mean to tell me that religion and culture supersede the laws of man in many places? I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. So shocked. Uh-huh. All right. So, I mean, she's going towards something that I'm not necessarily, too sarcastic or sardonic about. Yeah. You see, here's the thing. Second wave feminism, first and second wave feminism could do a lot of places in this world good if they took root. Places where women are inherently, culturally, legally devalued or set aside or restricted from advancing themselves. Yeah, in those places in the world, feminism, actual feminism, might be considered radical for those cultures, but would be an overall good in the long run. So if she's advocating for first and second wave feminism to take place more so in India than it already is, okay. But I guess I need to know, what is she talking about when she says radical feminist empathy? I still don't know what that means.
I would publish iterations of this work most recently in 2016 and again in 2017. Again, translating radical feminist empathy into action, I gave my research participants, Muslim women, a voice in my writing in educational histories, where they shared the difficult circumstances of their lives, their struggles, but also how some had prevailed and even acquired college degrees.
Okay, so you're advocating for the education and access thereto of women in these societies. I can't argue with that one. All right, so you're using your mother as an example of the achievements and strides women can make even in societies where women are oppressed or restricted from bettering themselves or getting an education, and you want to increase the opportunities for women to get education in those places. Okay, you sold me, at least on that point. How is this radical feminist empathy? That still doesn't make any sense to me. It just sounds like effectively combination of first and second wave feminism. That's but again, I suppose it's proportionality. It's in relative terms. You know, any feminism in a place where feminism doesn't exist is probably radical feminism. Is that what you mean?
In a recent research project, I inquired into the Asian immigrant experience in the United States and the economic, cultural, and traditional constraints to higher education for female Asian immigrants or their Asian American daughters. This was published in 2018. Drawing from ethnographic research with community college students, this research too presented the educational histories of the women across Asian diversity and experience in the United States.
Let me guess. I'm just heralding a guess here. The levels of immigrant Asian women in higher education were still low because those cultural norms were carried over, maybe?
In these two projects, the women's stories separated by nationalities, continents and oceans, cultures and religions have remarkably much that is in common. They speak to financial hardship, to family responsibilities that require time away from school, to cultural and gendered constraints to the women's aspirations to an education.
Right. So it's not that there wasn't availability necessarily, especially in this country versus others, but cultural and family traditions, obligations, and mores carried over into this country. Right. Okay. Yeah. So not at all surprised.
However, they are also stories of personal motivation, of perseverance and resilience, and sometimes of achievement.
Yeah, probably easier in those senses in this country where the rest of society at large is not necessarily imposing on you the same restrictions and values as your transplanted family. So it can inspire other things. Okay, and this needs a special moniker of radical feminist empathy because
a radical feminist empathy gives voice in my published work and in conference presentations to the women's educational histories. Even as we aspire, our circumstances are often not of our choosing.
Okay, you're either you're desperate to brand this phrase as your own radical feminist empathy, or I'm just not understanding how this is just not the empowerment of women, right? The cultural differences in empowering women from where you came from or from different religious backgrounds in different countries to, say, in comparison with America. What is radical? What is feminist? What is empathic about any of this? Empowering women, Okay, must be my Saturday morning brain. I just don't understand what the brand name is for this.
The stories I have told my mothers, the Indian Muslim women, who are Asian American women in community college in the United States, speak to dreams, to struggle, and to perseverance.
None of these things can take place in a American citizen in similar economic circumstances with family obligations. Why make it racial, I guess? Why make it racial and or cultural? Why not just talk about like women in these circumstances? Maybe it's specific because of your mother's situation or something. I don't know.
Teaching, too, for me, is activism. Within a feminist politics which critiques gender inequity wherever this is found.
Critiques gender inequity wherever this is found. Okay, well, if you're talking about gender inequity in India or within certain religions, sure, okay. It'll always be the case, probably. And your activism results in what?
I teach to inspire and to affirm across the spectrum of gender.
There's only two genders.
So that my students can learn, grow as persons, change themselves, but also work for change.
Yeah, you're trying to train activists. Okay, now you're losing me. You want to educate? Educate. You want to instill an ideology? Go to a church.
I share my stories with students, my own, my mother's, the women I met during my research projects. In my pedagogy, I assign independently researched papers or open-ended response papers where I encourage students to give voice to their experiences, to share their stories, to not hesitate to use that first-person pronoun, I.
Okay. Maybe I'm missing something. Sorry, backing up. I cut her off a little bit. Come on, just play the video.
Share their stories. Do not hesitate to use that first-person pronoun, I. We learn, I tell them, not only with our minds, but also with our hearts.
To not hesitate using the first-person pronoun, I. Wow. That's... What? You're asking them for their experiences and you encourage them to use the first-person pronoun, I. What?
Our lives, our experiences must count. Everyone, I tell them, no matter how young, has a story to tell and to share.
Yeah. Okay. And?
I conclude with a student's story. A few years ago, an Asian American female student, a recent immigrant to the United States, confided in me about domestic violence at home.
Domestic violence at home. Okay. Not specific. A circumstance that is unfortunately knows no boundaries when it comes to culture, religion, or country of origin, but okay.
She had just been accepted to medical school and would not be able to afford it if her parents divorced.
Would not be able to afford it if her parents divorced. She'd been accepted to medical school, but she wouldn't. Why? Was there a prenup or something? Were they not going to pay for their daughter's college even if they weren't together? I don't know all the intricacies of economics and financial situations with divorce, but that sounds bizarre, but okay.
I listened and then gave her a list of phone numbers, including those of lawyers she could call.
Lawyers for what?
She returned to class after missing about 2 weeks and told me that she had, armed with the numbers, asked her father to back down.
Asked her father to back down? Back down from what? Divorce?
He did. And she wrote to me from medical school and inviting me to her induction ceremony.
Wait, wait a second. Whoa. Okay, wait. Okay, so Asian American immigrant girl, because for some reason that's relevant to this story, even though nothing that she said so far makes any sense to it, but okay. Accepted to medical school, but because her parents may get divorced, she won't be able to afford medical school after the divorce. Okay. So, and by the way, supposedly there's domestic violence involved in this, but we never get that. Okay. So where is the domestic violence? Anyway, if parents get divorced, suddenly daughter can't go to medical school because they won't have the money. I guess how expensive are their divorce lawyers is my question. But anyway, so our speaker gives girl a list of numbers, specifically lawyers to call. And she calls a lawyer and gets her father to back down. Back down from what? Divorce? And then suddenly she can afford medical school. Did I miss something? I feel like there's large swaths of fact that are missing from this story. But moreover, what does this have to do with her being Asian? What does this have to do with her being an immigrant? What does this have to do with her being female? What does this have to do with feminism? And what did any of that have to do with domestic violence? What?
She offered to be my doctor one day.
Oh, how sweet. Your story may... Okay. Anecdote that never happened. If we're doing the bingo card, that's what I'd be circling about 7 times now. That story made absolutely no sense. That is your concluding argument. That story. That conclusion is your retrospective proof of your radical feminist empathy. You gave a girl a lawyer's number so she could, what, legalize her father out of getting a divorce?
Here was my mother's story and my own, a feminist radical empathy come full circle for one young woman, my student, and her dreams of further education. Thank you.
That made no sorry. Okay. The central theme to this, as I said earlier, is something that I can, generally globally agree with. The empowerment of women, equality amongst the sexes, in the literal sense of the word, under law and custom. Yes, those things would do well in many places in this world that do not currently have them. That's true. So on that point, on that initiative or principle, I agree with her. But everything else of this talk, what is she talking about? I mean, this isn't a formal TEDx, technically, but it at least deserves this.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
Yeah, so, okay. That was a thing. I guess I'm glad I did that as a non-TEDxcellence TEDx, because that would have been very short and not a whole lot going on. Yeah, I can't decipher that story for the life of me. Let's see, hour and a half. That's my magical time for most streams, and my tolerance for sitting still for too long. I'll go over. Apologies for not looking at the chat as much. I was just enthralled by our speaker. Let me scroll up a little bit. Q continuing. Cultural, because many of the cultures mentioned are not appreciative of the contributions made by women. True, or religious dictates that put women into a subservient position by, family structures and things like that. Keldrake, I found the radical feminism. It's right there, right behind the I. Yeah, the singular pronoun, I think. Spell cast art. What did I wake up to? Well, you woke up to me being awoken by my neighbors and then needing to do something with my brain other than lay in the dark and think about stuff. So that's what you woke up to. And then this. And then the thing I did before. What did I do before? Oh, yeah, the Wimixon thing stuff. Should we all get more coffee to try and understand this? I don't think there's an amount of caffeine in the world that would make sense of that closing story at all. I don't think so. The original room. The mother was the abuser. The father wanted the divorce. That's why he backed down from getting the divorce. She called a lawyer to get her father to back down from the divorce that would have prevented her from affording college after a domestic violence claim. Made no sense. And Johnny Bonsaka, only if you're pouring whiskey in that coffee. That possibly so. A little bit too early for a pepper jack. But a Starbuck Daniels, Jack Bucks, no, not Jack Bucks, Jack Star Daniels, Bucks, Buck Daniel Jack. I don't know. But I am going to go to Starbucks with my sister in a couple of hours because she always needs her, what does she always get? Grande vanilla soy latte, iced vanilla latte, or is there soy? I can't remember if there's soy. I might be injecting the soy there a little bit. Maybe it's not soy. Ice vanilla. I don't know. Anyway, that's going to happen. And now my brain is wandering because of course it is. It's Saturday morning and I shouldn't be even awake anyway, or at least I shouldn't be streaming probably. It's probably best I don't. So yeah, there you go. I did a thing to try to quiet my mind, and boy howdy. Between Wemixon survival strategies for femme colleges of white supremacy and domestic violence divorce lawyer medical school bingo, I guess I couldn't have done any better. So there you go, everybody. A programming note, I will still be doing a Sunday stream tomorrow morning. I have no idea what the subject will be. I'll have to find something else. Maybe it'll be education. Maybe I haven't done like a curriculum of fear in a while. I'll try to find something like that to look at. Also, Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, I am scheduled to appear on a Midnight's Edge After Dark channel with Tom Connors and the rest of the crew to do what is now being called the shit list, where each of us bring our top 5 selections in various subjects of pop culture. I believe this week it is our top 5 direct-to-video movies of all time. That's going to be interesting for those of us that have lived through the video store days. I worked at a video store, so I got a whole bunch of screeners. Well, I didn't, but the store got a whole bunch of screeners back in the day, those preview videos they send out so that the video stores will actually buy copies. Back when videos came out like 6 months before you could buy them as a customer, and you could only get them in video stores. So I got a whole bunch of screeners from back then from like HBO original movies and things that were direct to video. There's some good ones in there, but we'll be doing that tomorrow night. Otherwise, as far as TEDx is concerned, you can find me here, of course, Thursday nights for TED Excellence at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the regular show of TED Excellence. And before I forget, how about I tell you, I've got a Discord. Did you know I have a Discord? I have a Discord. And stuff goes on there. People talk about things. I post things. People post things. If you'd like to discuss things and just hang out, there's a link in the chat. All you have to do is click on that. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me and my moderators you actually watch the show and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the authority to become a member of the Discord server. And today's secret word is Wemixon. That's woman, but replacing the A with an X. Wemixon. So as long as you put that word along with your say hello, you'll get in. But with that, everybody, I'm going to call it here. Thank you all for joining me on this admittedly surprise, ambush, unplanned, unstructured stream. I appreciate it very much. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You rarely ever have anything to do, and I appreciate that, both of you and of the audience. And for those of you that donated, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Really do appreciate it. If you would, before you leave, if you could hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, if you could subscribe. And if you do feel inclined to do so, because I've missed it in the chat otherwise, leave a comment below. Apparently, that helps out with the algorithm. I've already gotten reports from some of my audience members and subscribers that they are not receiving notifications for my videos and or streams until an hour after the fact or something. I am told by people who are smarter than myself that somehow this relates to the amount of engagement that takes place on the videos and streams. So that somehow if people aren't engaging with the videos and the streams, then people who are already subscribed for notifications won't necessarily get the notifications in time. I don't know how it works. YouTube is broken in so many places. I could believe it. And if it does end up getting my channel more attention in the grand scheme from the algorithm, then hey, I'll beg for that kind of attention. Either way, everyone, hope you all have a good rest of your Saturday and weekend. Hope to see you tomorrow morning if you so choose for the Sunday stream. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.